Welcome to Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafedbank.com. I'm Alyssa Charlston. We're talking name, image, and likeness with Gonzaga Athletic Director Mike Roth. They've got several of the nation's top athletes at Gonzaga. We also get to know Kraken head coach Dave Hakstol off the ice with some rapid fire. But first, we start with our weekly roundtable.
We are surrounded by superstars on this week's Just a Bit Outside. We've got Mike Golic Jr., host of Shannon and Golic Jr. on ESPN Radio, Shannon Drayer, Mariners beat reporter and pre- and post-game show for 710 ESPN with the Mariners. And then, of course, legend Aaron Levine.
Give me a break. I'm signing off now. No way.
He's out.
Can't call me that.
Just did. There's no debating it. Thank you guys all so much for taking the time to talk to us. We've got a lot of baseball subjects. We're really sticking to Just a Bit Outside. Bob Uecker, paying respect to him, with the title. So let's start off with that. Shannon, I want to start with you. Mariners enter the All-Star break 3.5 games back of a wild card spot. If they were to hold on to that wild card spot toward the end of the season, what do you think is the most important position that's going to hold them there?
Well, I think you want to see continued development, improvement with the offense, but I think it's going to be starting pitching. And I think as we've watched it kind of unfold since the beginning of the season, if you recall going into the season, they thought that this was going to be the strength of this team, and that's what they were going to be able to lean on. And they certainly haven't been able to do that early. And as they're going into the second half right now, they went with a 6-man rotation to start. They've got 4 starters right now. Everybody has you've had a lot of injuries that have gone through here. You've had some ineffectiveness that has happened. The idea was they wanted to see as many people as possible. Well, they got that opportunity, but they're going to have to find some answers right now as how they augment the 4 that they have gotten. You're obviously are going to need more. It's very unlikely that they make it through with 4 or 5 just for the second half. So I think that you've seen some great performances. You've seen the development of Chris Flexen, which has been absolutely fantastic. Yusei Kikuchi has lived up to the numbers he had last year. Last year, he had all of the StatCast numbers, the peripheral numbers, everything looked good except for the results. And I think some of that was putting it all into practice, and some of it was between the ears as well. He's had a chance to get out there and work his way through innings and not have that one bad inning and be out of the ball game. So you feel good about him. You hope Marco Gonzalez takes another step forward and kind of gets back to at least 2019 Marco Gonzalez. And Logan Gilbert has really opened some eyes. You knew he was a top prospect, but did you think he was going to come along this quickly? And there was a lot of talk about him perhaps raising his floor over the offseason. I think he's raised his ceiling. I think getting around this guy, seeing how he works, seeing how he was able to add a very good changeup in less than a year, seeing how he breaks down the opposition, watching him watch the Yankees for 2 days and come through with a great plan, feel pretty good about him, but they're going to need more.
Got it. Aaron, what do you think?
I think if they just clone Kendall Graveman, they'll be fine for the rest of the year. What do you think about that? What a season for him. I'm talking about middle relief. Some might say the pitching staff, and I completely understand that, Shannon. Marco Gonzalez, he's obviously struggled. They need a starter better than Justice Sheffield for sure, the way he's been struggling lately. The Mariners need to do something else, though, and that's hit the baseball. And they have the worst batting average in the league right now. And they've been outscored by 50 runs this season. JP Crawford's having a very fine season. I think he's single-handedly keeping that average a little up there. I mean, he's probably all-star worthy as well. The rest of the team's making his batting average look like Ty Cobb right now, though, or Pete Rose. And I said it on Sunday night. This team has been a Houdini act all season long. It's impressive how they've been able to win as many games as they have so far. But in order to keep this thing going, they need to put runs up on the board. They need to start hitting the baseball better than they have.
And last time I checked, there's no Houdini on the roster, unfortunately, but maybe they can tune into it. Mike, from a national perspective, as Mariner fans, we were pumped after, Mariners in Seattle. I guess we can't really be fans as the media, but Saturday, they hit 6 games above 500 for the first time since 2019. What is the national perspective of kind of what the Mariners are doing? And you guys give a little love to the Northwest?
Well, see, I'm always roped into love for the Northwest because Mina Kimes, one of our great analysts here, is first team all Seattle, all everything. And so I live the fan experience through her, which is interesting because she kind of echoed what Aaron just said, which is there's no good reason that we should be where we're at right now when you look at everything that's happened to this team. And so I think there's an understanding for everyone that this seems like a lot of really good young groundwork laid for the future, that what happens for the rest of this season is probably going to be largely dependent on how they come out of the All-Star break here, depending on what moves they're willing to make, what they might be willing to do down the stretch, versus just saying, you know what, with the amount of injury we've sustained, this is just not supposed to be our year, but we can take this and use that as a springboard into the 2022 season, that hopefully things start to normalize even more as we come out of the pandemic year for everyone's sports.
Yeah, it'll be really
optimism here.
Yeah.
Guys.
Spread it.
All right. I think I hope we can agree that coming into the season, this was supposed to be the final development year, that they were supposed to get the young players some experience, let them have their debuts, see the league and whatnot. Aaron, a lot of the things that you said are correct. When you look at, they have been outscored by the league. They're looking at around a 60 run differential right now. And a few years ago, I learned run differential matters. Don't ever believe that, well, I've been watching this club, I know them better than any number right now. If you're outperforming that run differential, chances are good you're going to fall off of a cliff. But with a young team, it's not about what you do in April. It's not about what you do in May. It's about how you finish in the direction that you're going. And when you look at the run differential from June 1st on, you're looking at -8. So this is not a -60 run differential team that is going to take the field coming out of the All-Star break. You know, where they've been for the better part of a month has been almost close to even. And they're not quite dead last in offense right now. In fact, if you look from that date from, I believe it's May 24th on, they're about 20th, which is a significant step in their WRC plus for those who are not familiar, which is basically an all-encompassing offensive stat, is now at 104 for that time, which is over league average. So I think if you look at it, they're trending in the right direction and doing so without Kyle Lewis, who they hope to get back sometime in August. Evan White, who I don't think they're going to get back this year. Jared Kelnick on his way. You hope the second go round takes. And Cal Raleigh, who has a chance to be an upgrade offensively for the catcher position relatively quickly. So I don't think you should get sunk in what you saw those first 2 months as far as the offense goes. There's a long way to go, but I think that they actually have really contributed to what they've done since May 24th, and that's put up the 4th most wins in Major League Baseball. They are starting to hit a little bit. They're also one of the most clutch teams. Now, that's a stat you don't want to rely on too much. The bullpen plays a lot into that, but I don't think the offense is quite as bad as it's being made to be. And I think a lot of that is you're kind of looking at things that had happened before they got their legs under them.
And I love the optimism, Shannon, and you'll be the first person. I'll be the first person to say that I have been nothing but pessimistic and sarcastic about this team for the majority of the last 2 decades, and that I am hopefully optimistic because they have been a Houdini act for all the reasons that you just said there, from Kyle Lewis's injuries to James Paxton going out at the very beginning of the year, to the Jared Kelnick call-up being a failure the first time around, hopefully not the second time when he is eventually brought up again. Evan White out until mid-August also, and they're still 5 games over 500. That's what's so exciting about this team. Let's jump on this bandwagon right now and enjoy how they've been able to win some of these games to this point, and hopefully going forward. And they're only 3.5 games out of the wild card spot at this point. I mean, they have something to play for going forward. They hopefully will be buyers instead of sellers heading into this trading deadline.
And that'll be big.
Huge. Okay, well, I want to ask nationally, since you guys know Mariners so well, nationally, when the Hector Santiago news came down, the glove search, everyone joking about how it was put into a trash bag and like the CIA stuff and forensics and all that stuff. Mike, from a national perspective, was it hard to, first of all, understand everything that happened in Chicago that night when Hector Santiago was ejected? And then also, what does Major League Baseball do going forward in terms of enforcing foreign substances and pitchers?
Yeah, I actually think what Major League Baseball is going to do going forward is kind of similar to what other leagues go through when they roll out a new process that they're starting to penalize, right? Meaning we're going to see the big show. We saw all the guys dropping trow out there on the mound and trying to act and play their part in the charade and all this. And this was kind of the defining moment where it was, no, I'm very clearly telling you this was what was done in this spot, but Major League Baseball was going to go about this by the books. And we see this every year. I likened it to the NFL, where you get to the beginning of the season and they tell officiating crews, we want to emphasize holding calls up front of the offensive line this year. We think we've been letting them get away with that. And so for the first month of the season, what do we see? Laundry all over the place. Games slow down to a crawl, and it becomes a nightmare for everyone. But then after that, they say, all right, we have sent a message here now. We see people starting to adjust to that because they believe that we're going to call it now. We've shown that there's teeth to this policy. And so I'm hoping that's what we see from Major League Baseball, which is we needed a show of force at the very beginning of this to let everyone know, hey, this policy's got teeth here. You will miss meaningful time. Your team's going to have to figure out how to go about this without being able to replace you in the lineup. And once we get through this initial wave, I'm hoping that it kind of settles down a little bit, water finds its level. And when instances pop up like this, where there seems to be a logical explanation, that we let cooler heads prevail and keep this thing moving.
It is going to be really interesting to see how they continue to do it, because you hear coaches say, we're in favor of these rules and changing so that pitchers aren't cheating. We don't want people to be cheating. Doing it in the middle of the season isn't ideal. Obviously, you can't put your best foot forward. You can't create the best kind of regulation, but almost all coaches that I've heard speak about it, they're like, yeah, we needed to do it. And you see the offensive numbers escalate in the last, once they started enforcing it, the offensive numbers have definitely gone up. So before we get to Shohei Ohtani, because he's the big ticket, he is the human video game, Shannon or Aaron, do you guys have anything on that Hector Santiago stuff?
I was literally going to say the same thing that Mike said, so I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the smoothest thing, but at least they drew the line in the sand. And I think that's important. And there was grumbling on both sides about it, as there's going to be with everything going into a collective bargaining agreement. I think everybody kind of wants to, hey, we're here, and put out that announcement. I think it's a shame for Hector. I mean, if his biggest sin was sweating too much, and, what's he supposed to do? Wear the wristbands and things like that. But when all is said and done, if this kind of gets the game back to where it needs to be, I think all's well will end well, even though Hector's going to take a little bit of a hit here.
Man, if we started penalizing people for sweating too much in games, I never would have played it down in my life. So I really need this to not hold up.
Gotta
Your
feel
whole
for
career
Hector.
is wiped off.
Yes, done, over.
Too funny. Okay, so let's talk about Shohei Ohtani. The show in baseball right now, because his teammate Mike Trout is injured, 2 stars on one team, but what is he doing for the game right now? His impact on baseball. Aaron, I want to start with you, because we obviously heard Stephen A. Smith's comments this week about the translator and how he doesn't speak, fluent English, and how that could impact his marketability. You mentioned Ichiro. What is your stance on this? How does baseball market Shohei Ohtani?
I think it was an absolutely dumb thing to say earlier this week. We saw the star power Ichiro had in his prime in Seattle for 12 years. He had an interpreter, whether he understood English or not. I mean, a lot of people say that he was still able to speak a lot of English and understood, but he had the interpreter. His popularity did not take a hit at all. He was beloved in Seattle. He still is beloved in Seattle. And I watched that home run derby last night, probably for the first time in years, because I was specifically curious about Ohtani. I mean, this guy, whatever his nationality, whatever his language, I mean, he is a modern marvel when it comes to baseball, and he deserves all the attention and promotion, because you don't see guys competing in a home run derby one day and then starting for an all-star team as a pitcher the very next day and batting leadoff for that all-star team the next day also. You just don't. And that is what is marketable about him. And I'm really excited to see what they do to market him going forward, because I think he has a lot of eyes on him right now, and it's only going to continue. He is you can market him worldwide, because they already are.
I'd say this, as far as marketability, I'll steal this from Bomani Jones, who does a great job working for us. You win new fans over with quality. That's what Shohei Ohtani does. And really, when you think about any great player, how many memorable things has Tom Brady really said? How many all-time quotes have we heard from Patrick Mahomes in the NFL? I can go on and on down the list. I mean, hell, the only thing I remember Mark McGwire saying in Major League Baseball was to Congress. Like, we remember the way these people's accomplishments made them feel. I always come at this from the athlete's perspective, and I say the love language of athletics are ability and accomplishment, what you are able to do with these gifts that so few other people have. And that's what Shohei's captured with all of this, is he's gone out and displayed otherworldly ability. I'll tell you what marketing looks like. everyone going out here and doing the right thing and making sure he is hitting and pitching in this game, that he's batting leadoff and going to be the starter, that he participated in the home run derby, because he was the hook. We talk about this all the time in sports media. What's the hook into the combo? If you stayed to watch Trey Mancini and the gang go all the way deep in that home run derby, it was likely because you came there to see Shohei Ohtani originally. So as he goes along here, will he get, more comfortable in front of the American media in a way that might help his marketability here? Sure. But we talk about every professional league looking for ways to make their game and their league more global. We see it with every different sport up there. Everyone talks about that as an initiative. What better proof of product than for this otherworldly talent to leave Japan, come to this country to play baseball and share his gifts here? I can't think of one. So if you can't market that, that's a you problem, not a Shohei problem.
Oh, it's just been handed to him on a platter. I mean, first of all, they want baseball to be as global as it is. Baseball is extremely global right now. So, who cares what language anybody is speaking? And who cares if you're even a baseball fan? You could say to just about anybody on the street, he's doing something that nobody other than Babe Ruth did, and actually doing it better than Babe Ruth did. He's not going to be able to do both, or he won't be able to do it for an extended time. He's doing both. He's doing it for an extended time. He's going to have to take 2 days off before he pitches. No, he's not. He's able to play every day. Well, you can't lead him off, can you? Of course you can. I mean, next thing we're going to do is we're going to see him out in the outfield again. I don't think we'll really see that, but he's been he has not taken no for an answer anywhere. He's done it with a smile on his face. You saw how polite and how nice and how he laughed when he was checked for the rosin. He's got a great personality, and it's all right there for baseball.
Yeah, Mike and I both were had the same reaction, haha, funny. But no, Mike, he probably actually could do the other thing. Wouldn't be the most surprising thing. But that will wrap it up for this week's Just About Outside. Shohei Ohtani put on a show in the Derby, even though he lost first round. Everybody who was watching that, not smiling after every single hit, he just has this big smile on his face. He made baseball so fun for everybody watching. Packed crowd in Denver. Really excited to see where baseball goes from here and the rest of the season. Mike Golic Jr., Shannon Drayer, Aaron Levine, thank you guys so much for taking the time on Just a Bit Outside this week.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Love hearing from all of those superstars. Well, this summer, college athletes across the country are watching the number in their bank accounts skyrocket now that they can actually make money off their name, image, and likeness. I talked to Gonzaga's athletic director, Mike Roth, who has been there from the Zags' first Elite Eight through the Adam Morrison days to being a top 5 program every single year. This is the biggest change he's ever seen, and it's also long overdue. Gonzaga University Athletic Director, 24 years running, Mike Roth, joining us to talk name, image, and likeness changes with the nationally ranked programs that you have, Mike, at Gonzaga. Some of the highest ranked recruits in the country, future NBA lottery picks. Do you expect a fair amount of your Zags to sign deals and earn money soon?
Oh, absolutely. We've been preparing for this. They've been preparing for this. And we have a number of student athletes that have already been signing deals and that are preparing themselves to sign deals.
Well, the main fear is that college athletics won't be the same if we pay college athletes. Do you agree or disagree? And if you disagree, why do you think that assumption is wrong?
Well, I agree and disagree at the same time. How about sitting on the fence with that one? It's both in that I agree. If we were to pay student athletes directly, that'll destroy college athletics, in my opinion. What makes college athletics special is that they are student athletes and that they have the opportunity as 18 to 22-year-olds to not be viewed as employees. However, they can earn money through monetizing their name, image, and likeness. And that is something that I think can work. And it's probably long overdue. We're already seeing throughout the country student athletes that may not have a high profile athletically, but have a very high profile in the social media world. Now, I'm far from an expert in social media. I don't do social media in any way, shape, or form. But that's what I've been told. My understanding is that a number of student athletes in And it doesn't have to be in football or basketball. It might be tennis, it might be golf. It might be, I think we're going to see a lot of female student athletes in various sports. They're going to be some of the top earners in name, image, and likeness.
Your head coach of basketball was even talking about TikTok. And when Mark Few is talking about TikTok, that big change is in the atmosphere.
Especially, you're talking about a guy just like me who has no idea what TikTok really is. TikTok, what time is it?
You look at the clock.
I'm willing to bet Mark's watched about as much TikTok as I have, which is zero.
Well, right now, this is not federal legislation. The NCAA approved interim rules that allows all states to profit off their name, image, and likeness. But Alabama, Texas, New Mexico, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, they have their own laws. Do those states have any advantage over athletes here in Washington?
Well, actually, I believe that the student athletes that are playing at institutions here in Washington have an advantage. If your state has a NIL law in place, you have to follow that law. If your state doesn't have a law, which is in the state of Washington right here, each institution has the ability within the NCAA's guidelines to be able to establish their own NIL policy. And so we, Gonzaga, have our own Gonzaga name, image, and likeness policy that we were able to craft. Now I'm walking out the door here in a couple of months. I don't have as many filters maybe as I used to have. I think the last thing that college athletics wants is a lot of politicians telling them how things are supposed to be done. And in the state of Washington, we don't have politicians telling us how things are supposed to be done with name, image, and likeness.
Do you think this changes recruiting in certain, cities that offer different types of businesses? Will this create any more of a separation between schools and conferences, giving other conferences, Power 5 conferences, more of that recruiting advantage?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you hear out there. The term a lot is being used a lot is, the rich will get richer. Now, again, we're not in a Power 5 conference, but we are a top 5 program. We can see it on both sides. We're not in a large metropolitan area. We're not in a Seattle market, but there's advantages to that too, in that there's no other competition over here in Eastern Washington. If we were at a smaller school or a school that doesn't have the history that we've had over these last 20 some years, and the national profile that we have, yeah, I would be very concerned about being able to keep up, being able to compete.
How many businesses really will try to make deals with athletes? Gonzaga is the big ticket, not just in Spokane, but the Northwest, with those national championship appearances and nationally ranked programs. Have companies in Spokane jumped at this opportunity?
We believe that, yes, a lot of our present sponsors that are presently part of Gonzaga athletics will also want to be involved with our student athletes. Ultimately, it could be, I believe it'll be a win-win scenario. Now, the one concern, of course, and everybody has it around the country, is limited dollars. Do they have additional money to also give to our student athletes, or are they going to reduce the amount they give to Gonzaga athletics and use that money, the remaining money, to get to sponsor and be a part of with our student athletes? That's a very real and most likely of what will happen. And that puts some onus back on the department, the athletic department, to, okay, we're going to have to generate more dollars someplace else, or with some other entities or something along that line, because we do want to make sure our student athletes are being taken care of and getting what they deserve with their name, image, and likeness.
You can't find him on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or any other more than likely, but Mike Roth, Gonzaga Athletic Director. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an interesting conversation.
Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate it very much.
Well, TikTok, it's time to put Seattle's newest head coach on the clock, but not for trivia. We put Kraken head coach Dave Hakstol through a little rapid fire, and we get to know him away from the ice. All right, he is new to Seattle. We need to get to know the first head coach of the Seattle Kraken franchise, Dave Hakstol, with some rapid fire. Coach, first of all, welcome to Seattle.
Hey, awesome to be here. Thank you.
let's get into it. Between you and your daughter, who wins a face-off?
Oh, me, no question.
Love it. Okay. What athlete did you grow up idolizing?
Larry Robinson, Wayne Gretzky, Paul Coffey, Ken Dryden.
Legends. Okay. Any superstitions?
None whatsoever. But if whatever's working, you just don't change it. Not necessarily a superstition, though. So, but if it's working, you don't change it.
All right. Baseball or football?
Football.
Favorite genre of music?
Country.
Love that. All right. Best sports movie, in your opinion?
Major League.
Major League. Okay. And I hear that you're into water sports. So wake surfing, wakeboarding, or water skiing?
Wake surfing.
All right. Catch him on the water maybe as soon as this summer. Coach, thanks for the time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So he's preparing for the expansion draft next Wednesday, but he's also wake surfing to country music on the lake. Dave Hakstol is just like us. That's going to do it for us this week. Big thanks to Shannon, Drayer, Mike Golic Jr., Aaron Levine, Mike Roth, and Dave Hakstol, plus our entire production crew. I'm Alyssa Charlston. We'll see you in a couple weeks.